Another edition of Sunday No Huddle with Robert Rosenthal of IlliniBoard.com. It's been 48 hours since the big win in Lincoln. What is still front of mind for you?
Front of mind is 4-0 is 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a stat today that there are only 3 teams. ESPN does these power ranks. They call it Football Power Index. It's a analytics kind of thing. There are only 3 teams that have beaten 2 top 40 teams in that index: BYU, Illinois, and I think Georgia. Just the fact that this is happening in Illinois is 19, and they're beating quality teams, it's just hard to comprehend. Look, we looked at this schedule and we said, gosh, in September there's 2 ranked teams, there's 3 ranked teams. You've got Kansas, you've got Nebraska, you've got Penn State. Gosh, that's a 2 and 3 start waiting to happen, and here they are 4-0 going into the 5th game. So it's just really impressive. It's definitely a surprise. The
thing that's been surreal for me, and I said this week on the WCIA 3-in-1 podcast, we were all sitting in there watching the end of the game, and Brandon Morano, when they won, they said, okay, now you only have to win 2 more games to get to a bowl.
Right.
And that was crazy to me, because this is a fan base who has missed out on bowls 2 of the last 3 years.
Yes, and not just 2 of the last 3 years. I mean, look, the bowl seasons in the 2020s, I can name off the top of my head: 01, 07, 10, 11, 14, 19, 22. Like, that's not many bowl seasons. And to be here, what are we, September 22nd, and we're talking about, 2 more wins and the bowl's locked up, and then you start climbing for a bigger bowl. It's really, really a surprising season.
For the defense to have such a great performance against Dylan Raiola and this whole Matt Rule squad in obviously a really hard week for Aaron Henry, what kind of confidence does that give you as they take on the rest of this Big Ten schedule? Yeah,
that's that was the frustration obviously last year, that you go from that incredible defense in 2022, and then look at the Purdue game was this time last year, and Illinois gets completely blown out by Purdue and the former defensive coordinator, and it's 40-something 19 or whatever, 46-19, and it just looked like, oh, maybe that defense was a one-time thing. But now to have this back again, all I've talked about since Friday night is that it just looked so competent. Like, even if Illinois had lost this game, national commentators would have come along and said, like, gosh, that's still a really good football team.
I agree.
Like, they've played well in all 3 phases, and they got punt return yards here, and they got the big stop in overtime from their defense, and they got the drive they needed from their offense. That level of that type of thing is really encouraging as you go forward through the season.
Yeah. Last week we stood right here with Illinois newly in the rankings. Now they shoot up 5 spots to number 19. Are we still a little superstitious with this, a little nervous about it? How are we feeling?
I am in the area of gravy at this point. We are, there is a look. We looked at September and said, 4-1 in September would have been a dream start with 2 other ranked teams on the. So now, if 4-1 happens, I'm still, as a fan, incredibly happy. If 5-0 happens, then we're standing here next Sunday night talking about crazy things like, well, they're obviously in the playoff picture now.
Obviously.
So, yes, obviously, as everyone expected before the season. So that's the adjustment here of, like, this start has been so fantastic, you've earned a little of that, and now we have a few gravy games built in here of, like, lose and it's okay, win and oh boy, that type of thing. So it's interesting.
Luke Altmaier, the only quarterback in the nation with 10 touchdown passes and no interceptions. How does he keep that up going into a game like the one ahead this weekend?
Yeah, it makes me think of that throw in the Central Michigan game. We talked about it here last week, where he, had a receiver on the wing, but wasn't exactly sure, and kind of just stopped his arm halfway through and more or less spiked the ball at the receiver's feet. It was a 3rd down play. You're not going to pick up the 1st down, but that's a big mistake to make in this part of the game. Can't do that. And so that's what we've seen. As he's eliminated that side of things, everything has improved. If you look at the stats from Friday night, Nebraska only had their hand on 1 pass, 1 tipped pass, 1 pass broken up, passes defended, they call it. And when that means you're not only are you not throwing interceptions, you're not really even getting in the vicinity of a defensive
flirting with.
Yes, you're not even. It would take a crazy tipped pass as well as you're dialed in. So that's the impressive thing. Like, and interceptions will happen. Patrick Mahomes is going to go through interceptions. Everything is going to. It's football. Tipped passes happen, this and that. But his decision making has really changed from last season, and that's a big part of 4-0.
Yeah. Another road test for this team, once again, somewhere that I have not had the pleasure of going. Number 9, Penn State. Feels like it's a tough place to play anyway, especially when they're playing as well as they are right now. Tell me a little bit about playing in Happy Valley and what's in store for fans and players alike.
Well, obviously for Illinois, there's good memories here. There's there's the 9 overtime game that was kind of the turning point for Bielema's team in his first season. The year before that, it was a lot different story. It was the game during COVID. It was the final game they added on the season. It was actually the day Bielema was hired. He flew to Happy Valley to see his future.
The game?
He did not coach.
Okay. Oh my.
He just sat. So it was a very interesting scenario because it was COVID. There was nobody there.
Okay.
So he was with Josh Whitman in his suite, having just been hired that morning. There was an interim coach coaching, one game, and he got to sit there and watch his future team. So for him, it's this kind of unique place. He's got his big win over a top 10 team there and 9 overtimes, and he's, that's where he first watched his team, that type of thing. So I know he's going to deliver that message this week of like, hey, we've done some things in this stadium, and let's keep it going.
Yeah, and James Franklin is already calling upon his fan base to make this, I think he said, whiteout energy, which is obviously what they're known for up there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be pretty hostile for this team. Yes,
definitely. It is intimidating. It's such an interesting stadium because from the outside, there are parts of the stadium that just look like, I don't want to say high school stadium, but you just see the exterior shell of the bleachers kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're
looking what you mean.
Underneath, it looks like a roller coaster kind of thing, And then on the other side, there's no real superstructure to the whole thing. But then on the inside, you walk through the gates and the steepness of the stands and everything else. It is an incredibly intimidating place to play, especially at night.
Yeah. From an X's and O's standpoint, what are some of your keys to Illinois getting what could be a really exciting win or could be a well-fought game no matter what?
Yes, continue to limit the turnovers is the biggest thing. That's been the key to this team. What's interesting about Friday night is there were 5 fumbles in the game, 3 by Nebraska, 2 by Illinois, and Nebraska recovered all 5. Like, they recovered the 3 times they fumbled and both times Illinois fumbled. And Illinois still that's 5 balls bouncing around. Nebraska falls on all 5, and Illinois still overcame that. So, maybe you're looking for some of those things this weekend of like, well, maybe a few fumbles bounce our way. Maybe we could be +2, +3 in turnovers. So, that has been the key to this team, this turnover margin of really making a surge in these first 4 games. And that seems to be what would be the key. If you're going to beat number 9 on the road at night on national TV, you're going to need to play that kind of game where you're getting the turnovers, you're limiting them on your side, 3rd down conversions, a few big 4th down conversions. Every one of those categories you're going to have to tick off if you're going to expect to, try and pull an upset here.
Yeah. Robert, safe travels this weekend. I look forward to hearing your thoughts from Happy Valley.
Sounds good.
You and the boys will be up there this weekend getting
right.
all of the latest